Oh, hello there. Back for another excerpt of The Hitchhiker's Guide? Why, I can tell that you are. Come along with me. Let's have some fun. So, in this second excerpt of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, titled Restaurant at the End of the World, we find out exactly how you can get to a place at the end of the world. We start where we left off. Zaphod, Marvin, Ford, Tricia, and yes, Arthur, all sitting inside the Heart of Gold, escaping from Magathia. We are relaxing in space, only to be confronted by two Vogon ships, which, at the time, our computer is preoccupied with an order by Arthur for some hot tea leaves. Yeah, it's having a bit of a problem. So, while the ship is occupied and the main warp drive can't be used, what our heroes decide to do is seance with Zaphod Beeblebrox IV. Zaphod Beeblebrox's great-great-great-grandfather. And after a couple of minutes of Zaphod Beeblebrox IV admonishing Zaphod Beeblebrox the Nothingeth, quote-unquote the end of the line, for being useless, a conceited little mega puppy, and other extraneous names that, well, Zaphod Beeblebrox IV loves calling Zaphod Beeblebrox the Nothingeth. So at the same time, we find out that Zaphod Beeblebrox IV, as a dead person, has the ability to slow time, to create pocket dimensions, to do all this fantastic stuff. And in the moment, he decides to warp the Vogon ships, both of them, Zaphod Beeblebrox and Marvin, off to an unknown location, where our next 5 chapters take place. Where Zaphod Beeblebrox finds himself, well, within, how should I say, the worst planet in the universe, Ursa Minor Beta, a place that, well, only travelers and backwoods scum would want to be, because it's so f***ing rich. And as Zaphod Beeblebrox finds himself walking around this distant land, he comes to terms that Ursa Minor Beta wasn't the worst place to be, but he didn't know exactly where he was going. And as Zaphod looks around this distant land of Ursa Minor Beta, he keeps hearing about this name that he's never allowed to go to, Zarniwoop, Mr. Zarniwoop. So, obviously, he goes to try and find him. And on this journey, he finds Marvin, who had also been transported off. So, at least they're in the same place, but that doesn't bode well for the Vogon ships that are going to be following in their wake. And so as Zaphod and Marvin are walking throughout this building, they're trying to work out exactly where Mr. Zarniwoop is. They're trying to go onto this elevator, it's resisting them, specifically because there's an attack about to happen. And no other time than then, something smashes through the roof. A Frogstar Scout Robot Class B and Class C out looking for them. So Zaphod does the only sensible thing, and he decides to leave Marvin behind, to battle the robots, robot-on-robot action. That seems about right. Which leads into an entire chapter of Marvin outsmarting a robot into trying to kill him, only to make that robot kill himself. Because they didn't care about Marvin, and that made the tank angry. Moving on. And so as Zaphod runs throughout this building, he meets an important man named Rooster. And Rooster says, "Oh yeah, they're out looking for you. They're gonna take you to the most evil world in the whole galaxy, Frogster." And Zaphod replies, "Well, they have to come and get me first." Which Rooster replies, "Well, they have come and got you. Can't you see the ships outside?" Anyways, and as Zaphod is about to depart from Rooster, Rooster says, "There's something important you have to know. I planned this with you, your great-grandfather, everyone you know. So keep on the straight and narrow, alright?" And, he leaves. And obviously that's a callback to when Zaphod opened up his tiny head, and it had a ZB initial on it, so we're going back to that. Slowly, we're getting there through the plot. And in that, as Zaphod Beeblebrox runs away, finding Marvin, the winner of the scuffle, he remarks on this, only to be found again by the Frog Stars, and to be taken to the Vortex, a mind-flaying-like machine that is designed to create, well... yeah, they're gonna euthanize it. There's no good way to say it. As Zaphod Beeblebrox is taken to the Vortex, the whole point of the Vortex, as he's told by this voice that surrounds the Vortex, it's like a consciousness that's been separated from a body that is guarding this place, almost, sort of like to force people into the Vortex once they get there. So, he's told by this voice named Gargavar, and he's told by Gargavar that the Vortex, its whole point is to show you exactly where you are in the universe. And it's supposed to make you feel so insignificant and so small that, well, you'll just go insane. And the whole point of it was the creator of the Vortex actually used it to tell his wife, this is why we can't, go to this spot. This is why we can't go here. And, so he made it, and she went insane. And now they just decide to use it for interplanetary warfare, because, why not? So, as Zaphod is put into this machine, it's the end of Zaphod, if you will, as Gargavar is telling him, this is where you're about to be shown, this is where you're supposed to know your point in the universe, and why exactly you don't matter. And as Zaphod Beeblebrox is immersed in the Vortex, he's shown that he's the center of the universe, and that he's the cool, most best guy in the world, and Gargavar just can't handle that. And he goes, what? The only way that could happen is if you're in a pocket dimension where you're the most important person in the whole pocket dimension. And so after Zaphod gets out of this, he runs in the direction of a ruined city right next to the Vortex, and he finds the man he's been looking for, Mr. Zarniwoop, who tells him that he's in a artificial world, and... well, the only way that he could have lived from the Vortex is if he thought he was the most important being in the world, which could only happen if he were, 1, a complete narcissist, or 2, inside a pocket dimension. And so after, Zarniwoop is given this long explanation about, where he sits inside this universe, he asks him where's his coat. They flip one single switch inside of it, and Zaphod goes back to the real universe, where he meets up with the Heart of Gold, letting Zaphod know that his whole mission in life was to find Rooster, which he couldn't have done if he wasn't the most important person in the universe, and then, from that point in the universe, go to the Vortex to only know that he's as narcissistic and as important as he thought he was. So, with all of that being said, the great-grandfather brings them back to the current time without the Vogon ships, thankfully, and tells them, alright, have fun, kids, and sends them to the restaurant at the end of the world. Arthur, Trisha, and yes, Ford, along with Marvin being back. And as everyone becomes conscious again, we find that we're at the restaurant at the end of the universe. Also, if you're wondering about the title of this restaurant, it's Milliways, like Milliway for Milky Way Galaxy. The puns go on, but I don't have time for this. And there's a host speaking very cheerfully about the different destructions going on. Anyone from this planet? Anyone from that planet? Anyone from here? Oh, that looks like it was Asgard. I think we have a couple of demigods in the house. Thor's hammer smashes in the background. And with all of that, we find ourselves, well, having our final meal in the world. As Ford Prefect, or Praxbeetle Ix, walked around the party, he actually found an old entrepreneurial billionaire person he used to bully, remarking on this, getting more and more drunk, only to come up to him later on and remark about, hey, weren't we such great friends? Only for the man to, well, not even be conscious at all, almost like his consciousness has been taken and been used for something else. As Trisha McMillan is finding herself, well, very much a favor of the demigods from Asgard, she's becoming, well, almost cradled by Thor, and this is making Arthur very angry as he storms up to them, puffing his chest out very wide, telling them, you better get your hands off her, to which he basically takes her away from Thor and them, because, well, he's seen her leave once, and he knows she'll leave again, so he does something to keep her with the group, to which even I thought it was a little bit weird, but even only pages later, she says, thank you. I don't know what I was thinking. I just didn't want to be here right now, and I want to leave this party. Which leads Zaphod to actually call in Marvin, wondering where the hell he is, finding that, well, that was his partner in the artificial world. Turns out Marvin is actually in the parking lot with the Heart of Gold. Our characters make their way down to the parking lot, boarding the Heart of Gold, and apparently, it's been 900 years. And because of Marvin's huge intellect, he actually knew exactly where the party would be, considering, well, they already said that they were going to go have a bite to eat. And as our party leaves, finding themselves harpooned in some other random direction in the universe and time, there's a man who comes out of the bathroom at the restaurant at the end of the world, and he says, oh, boy, do I have a story for you. If I've just got a minute. And then the world ended. So here's some information about the universe and living in it. The area, infinite, whole lot of space. Imports, there's none. All of it's already there. Exports, sea imports. Population, none, because, well, technically, even though we know there's an incalculable number of planets. And as we're leaving the restaurant at the end of the world with our crew, Arthur actually remarks, who owns this ship? And Zaphod says, well, property is theft, right? So I own it. And obviously, we're not taking that for an answer, and we're going to get back to that later. And right now, as they teleport away, they find themselves inside of this ship that's diving toward the sun, trying to time it exactly 6 minutes and 37 seconds before the climax of this concert so that they can dive perpetually into a sun and then have the solar flares reach out to a planet named Kakafun in this disaster area and hit these concert goers, and it'll be amazing and super amazing. Anyways, our crew's on that ship, and now they're trying to work out a way to get out. As everyone that's left wakes up, we find that Zaphod and Trisha are actually gone. Nowhere to be seen. And it's only Arthur and Ford Prefect left. They find themselves in a ship on top of what seems to be a load of dead bodies. And as they crawl off these dead corpses, they find themselves going towards the bridge of the ship. And as they get there, they actually find a captain who's bathing in a tub for, well, it's been about 7 years now, and he only has a couple of assistants to help him run the ship. And their job, as the captain and lackeys of this ship, was to planet it to a new planet, or as the third ship to leave, which would be leaving first, which would be full of hair salonists, lawyers, accountants, all these different people from this planet. The first two ships would follow afterwards. Doctors, politicians, important people, along with the common man, trade workers, HVAC, etc., etc. And so as the third ship left, they just assumed that the other ships were coming. So they didn't come, and now they're set to crash into this planet that's about, 20 minutes away. From one frying pan to another, am I right? The ship's captain actually explains those aren't a bunch of dead people inside of the cargo bay, but rather comatose people who were put into cryostasis. And with that, Arthur and Ford start to introspect a little bit on what might this ship have been for. As Ford and Arthur figure out that they're on a doomed ship, they do anything they can to stop the navigation, and they find that they can't actually sway anything. So with all of that, they actually strap into seats and accept their fate once again, as they crash into a planet known as Gulga Frenchum. And from that, the entire ship crashed at night on a nice little green planet revolving around a yellow sun. Ford and Arthur are okay, and so are many of the other people who crash-landed here. They find themselves bureaucratizing and working out different ways to actually work out and slice through this planet. Many different warlike or even political answers are researched among all the people who crash-landed on the ship. And as they're all talking, Ford and Arthur find something in Norway. They find a signature from a man who created planets, one Slarty Bartfarst, an SB, on side some beautiful, beautiful Fords in Norway. And from that, we know that this planet is actually Earth, millions of years in the past. Our heroes, Ford and Arthur, had actually gotten back exactly where they'd come from. Improbably, they're on Earth. And not even a replication of Earth, but the original one. And now, part of a problem that's killing the old monkeys inside of this place, almost bewildered at what could this Earth be as the greatest computer in the world. Well, we found out later that Trisha and Zaphod are actually teleported back to the Heart of Gold by none other than Zarniwoop, who actually asked them if they had a good time, which they don't, and they immediately go to the cockpit trying to search for their friends. So as they're bewildered by this age-old question of that they have the answer to, 42, they're wondering what could be the question that's inscribed on Earth. And as the curiosity grows, Ford decides to take all of these electronics and build a brain scanner that can actually take one of the original monkeys on Earth and scan their brain, just to see exactly what the question is. You see, earlier, Ford and Arthur had talked amongst themselves with saying that maybe that the answer was, well, what's 6 times 7? And through that, it could have been just as simple. We learn that through the brain scanner, WHATINENTIMESSEVEN. So as Ford and Arthur begin busting out laughing at what is 9 times 7, they decide to take the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and huck it. They didn't need it anymore. So with all the secrets of the universe being answered for them, Arthur and Ford decide to take the 2 closest New Age women that they saw and settle down and live their life. And that's how they lived for about 5 years, until they decided that they did want to know the answers to life, the universe, and indeed, everything. Come back next time and we're going to talk about that one. So please, don't delay, and I make sure I won't either. So actually, leave a comment, leave a like, do anything to actually show that you're here, because right now I'm just trying to get into this, and it helps a lot. So thank you very much, and you all have a good one.